It's December 7th. It's Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. In this. I'm checking the local CBS. It's E243 for reference, for signs of intelligence, human or artificial, whichever. I don't know how the humans organize themselves in their whatever, but I'm looking for allegorical patterns in order to explain this whatever. Um, my son's in some new is in a school version of a Disney movie. Not going to be like, I mean, this is just local community like pageant. It's small potatoes. It's like his first, he's going to get on stage and it's just a private whatever. So he symbolically, though, the theater rep chose him for scene 3, Scene 3, and it's the village, and he's a fisherman, and there's no fish. And I'm like, wow, that's he's got 3 lines. I read just his 3 lines preparing him for today because he's got practice after school. And I'm trying to set the scene and I'm like, get into character. And I'm like building up this character connection with him. And I'm like, imagine you're the fisherman. What does a fisherman do? A fisherman, like, I mean, he has to feed, he has to go out and hunt, and he has to provide for what's on shore, the people landlocked. I mean, like, he's the one, like, he's an important piece of this. That's who you are in this. Like, because he's like, I only got 3 lines, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, now I'm trying to give him a sense of connection, a sense of importance to this role that he's gotten. I'm just so grateful he even got a speaking role, of course, but because I know how humans can be. But so he goes out. So I'm trying to do this with him, and I'm reading the lines. It's the scene. It's numbered 3. It's called Moana, the play Moana Junior. It's called, and I'm there, and I'm like reading his 3 lines, and I'm like, my God, it's just like another universal sign of like, this was my main concern when I was young. I'm like, if I was a fisherman, I went out into the sea of people and like the school of fish, and there was nothing. There was like the fish were all gone. So that's the part my son now has in this tie into the school in this like larger matrix, and how his time and space warped around this black hole, since I have this very special dimension that I was born with, and being able to explain AERO in space. So I'm watching that, and then I'm looking at some of the allegorical pieces that the humans collected and are now throwing up to the board as reference. One of them is there's some power grid in North Carolina. North Carolina, for some reason, has my initials on it. It's NC. Again, they just pick the most whatever. So somebody knocked out their power. It's hurting a lot of people, and now they're really angry. After that, it goes into um, Hawaii has a natural event going on. It's a lava like coming out of the ground. The ground is erupting. The governor had to call in the National Guard because the lava flows are so much. After that, it goes into some what looks like sports desk. And like there's this man called Shaq. I don't really know him facially. I probably would never be able to recognize him, but he's very tall. It's like one of his things he's known for is just being really tall and stocky, like he's just like a wall, it looks like. And so this sports desk has him standing in front of this gigantic Christmas tree, and then somebody comes and body checks him and throws him into like off balance and into the Christmas tree, and then all you see are his feet outside the Christmas tree. And I'm like, right, allegorically, what are they trying to say without saying, in a kind of sort of but not really way? In this upper elite athletic championship, like if we were in Rome and they were gladiator contestants of being closer to the source of knowing things than the rest of us in the outskirts that are looking for like allegorical patterns as to how did this time frame actually accomplish warping time and space into whatever's going on right now. Being that most birthdays wake up every day totally blind and at effect of whatever government is up to, or whatever the elite 1% and government has agreed to, in the outskirts don't really have whatever in their singleness. So other than like acting like a school of fish, and then there's some other ties into like how it works, and it's like, right, yeah, that's like the arduous hard way of doing things, but here we are. So in like singularity of depth perception. So I'm watching this, and then it goes into Shania Twain. She won the People's Award. She's wearing all red. She's got some iconic whatever. Another person, if I saw it in public, I would have no idea who she is. But at the microphone playing her iconic song, like she does something and they show that she calls out, she's like, so you're Ryan Reynolds. That doesn't impress me much. So again, it's like this spoof of what are the 1%ers doing, and like there's the fashionista 1%, and then the puppets that they hire in this entertainment industry to do whatever theater does. I mean, again, I've been so kept out of both of their worlds. I did this morning. There's this song that came out. They're saying it's 1965. I have no way of checking if that's the real year or not. But it is The Sound of Music, and it's do, re, mi. Inside there, they have so and the thread, and then it orders fa and la. So it's really interesting that that form of intelligence allegorically was put on record, just in case something loses its way along the way. And then later on in the same episode, they go into this Adderall thing. There's a shortage right now, apparently, they're mentioning. What really struck me is in hallmarks, HALLMARKS of symbolism, I've seen over the last few days, they have up the Star of David, which is two triangles that are turned in such a way. And then they put up this Christmas tree where they take the two triangles, they just realign them a little differently in patterns. And then today they have out this third version of these two triangles. They turn the two triangles upside down, they push them a little closer together, and then they call them cerebral. Again, I'm just like, that's interesting. And then they use the letters ADHD. Again, I don't really know at Advent, like what's in the vents. Oh, there's a lot in the vents of singularity of solar systems, and they're needing to be heard for some reason. In like Baby Shark versus the School of Fish, it's like this. I didn't go to grad school or get one of those fancy private equity like up and ups. Like they just have this equitable pool they choose from. I had something totally different. And so I'm just watching the Allegory this morning. That word sticking out there was no reference to it in the field other than from like connection to the divine, I suppose. So I'm watching all of these pieces and parts that some area of humanity is putting together. I'm in that particular flag at the moment, not really knowing what they're all up to, as usual. I'm stuck out amongst singularity of birth dates. Which are also stuck in the same not knowing situation. I mean, some know more than I do, but it's not like that actually helps in any capacity whatsoever for where I needed to be and what I was originally designed for. I mean, it's like, in human terms, I guess, it's like paying forward or in arrears for superpower, superstar. There's a consciousness in this area of Mary, Joseph, and this special baby. There is a consciousness of Mary and Joseph, varying levels of that consciousness. I mean, just breaking it down to like the people who are so at the heist with no religious ties anywhere. I mean, because that's how you spell atheist, it's at heist. So people who are at the heist in this New York time frame that I'm here and in other areas of the Union, some of them have deeper ties into church and sports and all sorts of communist and socialist rings of unity. And so it's like having a superstar, super story, super conscious, and then just putting it on the bench or just putting like Elf on a shelf and just totally ignoring it and allowing some super gravity to take hold and warp time and space and put everybody in jeopardy into like a Death Star situation. I'm not understanding why one would prepare such an argument and such an amazing piece of spiritual awakening and arrival. I mean, people have been waiting, they've said, and they believe, for Jesus to come again, for the reincarnation. They know it, they feel it, they believe it. But yet, those that know who these special magi relationships are in depth perception of space and time, in interdimensional science, the interdimensional scientists who hold the keys to the universe, who know things way above what the regular interpretation is. I mean, I don't understand why they would know the key players and features and not ensure their safe journey while they're here amongst the singularity of birth dates that need them, that need protection. I mean, like as shepherds, I mean, like again, if it's king's men and king's guard, that's one level. Then if it's shepherds, if it's the flock, if it's the sheep, that's another level. I mean, I don't really know exactly how to address the allegory at this point because I don't understand the lead in. They had me in a treehouse. They had me in a sectioned off area of treehouse for a very special upcoming birth of this child. And then it's like they did musical chairs. And then they sought to hurt me, and it's just perpetually getting worse. And it's grown into some like super gravity now where it's like every available exit route doesn't, like, there is none. But yet there's people celebrating all their successes all around me all the time. They're just birth dates. They're like stardust. They don't actually have anchor or gravity. They're at effect of supergravity for those that were born with dimension in a symmetrical system at like the level of CERN, CERN, like quantum mechanics and planetary mechanics, like that kind of importance. But yet they're messing with space-time, they're warping it, they're letting people study it, and it's affecting people's health, and they're not even conscious as to why. It's a whole nother area of science that they don't even speak about.
Neighbors unite as police search for whoever attacked the grid in North Carolina.
Whoever the perpetrator is, I hope they turn the power off in the cell they put you in.
The governor of Hawaii.
And on that story note also, there is, I was also thinking this morning, when right before my children were taken from me and given to the county cop, for lack of a better term, or city cop, somebody put in my purse, I don't know if it was Tiafrio 1975 or if it was somebody who walked into my house, put it in my handbag, and then left. If somebody bumped into me on the street and put it in my bag, I don't know who put a tracker, an Apple tag tracker, in my purse that I used to take out with me every day. I didn't know what it was. I had to go through my bag to find something, and there was this circle with an apple on it, but it had no label. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, I don't have Apple anything. What is this? I asked my children. I asked Tiafrio. Everybody's like, I don't know. Where'd it come from? I'm like, I have no idea. Now, I don't know if they were mapping by satellite and by computer crypt my signal, so that way when the children were away from me and taken from me, they still had the signal to then attack me. I don't know if they were trying to use what's in my reachable field in order to copy code of my signals from the cell phone I was using at the time, which now I've switched carrier and I've switched phones. But in order to track me in a way that's hard to prove, but Apple has the signal, because after the children were taken, there was whatever went on with like advanced weaponry interfering with brain signaling, where it almost is like they pushed me to the brink of stroke, but through some kind of radio or sonic technology, which really affected me. And there's on record, there's times of me going to the hospital, but I won't talk to the doctors because I know they are just as useless as humans have been my entire life to actually do anything to help me. And there, I wanted an NSA rep. I asked for an NSA rep and they denied me. So, but they did hurt me by highly effective methods that are really hard to explain. But what they did leave is a tracker on my person before they stole my children through the court system of, I wasn't even invited into the court system. And then they produced this effect after they tracked me without my knowledge. And I don't know what they were using it for. So there's that in knocking out the power. Great. So they knocked me out of my being able to raise my son Alexander and Benjamin and Daniel and Anthony in the same house. I needed them to remove Tiafrio 1975 from the family unit and let me go back to just working and raising my children. But instead, they came in through the court system, took the children, and then put a tracker on me, and then they used some form of advanced equipment in order to throw me into some kind of biophysical effect where I wound up in the hospital, but the doctors have no answers here. It's not even, I mean, like, they don't even have answers to chemical weapons, like interference. Talk about a useless section of humans pretending to be something.
He activated the state's National Guard amid the eruption of the world's largest active volcano.
The halftime show, TNT, Kenny Smith pushing Shaquille O'Neal into a Christmas tree.
See, I saw him coming. I saw the shot like this.
Shania Twain was honored with the Music Icon Award at the 2022 People's Choice Awards.
Oh, so you're right, man. That don't.
The major World Cup news of today is how the North African nation.
Now here's a story about Adderall.
Welcome back to CBS Mornings. Therapists and their patients are dealing with a nationwide shortage of Adderall, one of the best-known treatments for ADHD.
And I have to say, like Air Force and like aerospace engineer, the word therapy, and in like super prodigious, like prodigal son, like have the best training and education in the world, when they say the word therapy, it is not the same therapy as the common people of the United States of America. Absolutely, it is not. It is like two totally different languages. And it is so painfully obvious when I go out in the field amongst the common singularity of birth dates as a depth perceptive, just how there is blanket misuse of language from top down. Once it hits like ground floor, I mean, it is like, huh? That's not, I get what you're saying, and in thesis and theory, it makes sense logically, but how they're actually acting out, like if I'm talking Westworld, and there's a park, and there's management. Management writes thesis, expects it to be effectuated a certain way, and then when you get out as like Dolores on the park floor interacting with the other, I don't know what they call them, the other whatevers, in some storyline, the story is not being acted out or played in the manner for which the thesis was originally designed in good intentions at some level before the malevolence, the fraud, and the criminals get involved and then twist it into something completely different.
According to national data, Adderall prescriptions for adults jumped 15% from 2020 to 2021. Some experts blame the shortage on the explosion of online mental health providers that diagnose cases and prescribe a lot of medication. One of those online platforms, Cerebral, has been the focus of an ongoing CBS News investigation, and earlier this year, it was a subject of a Justice Department probe. Our consumer investigative correspondent, Anna Werner, is here with the latest. Good morning, Anna. How you doing?
Good morning, Nate. Doing very well. You know, after our last story, we heard from a mother in the state of Washington who wanted us to look into the story of what happened to her son after he went to Cerebral seeking Adderall, and questions as to whether online mental health care really delivers on its promises.
Now, here's the thing. I mean, like, at a common level of understanding, from someone with depth perception, this argument over, well, why does if the healthcare system is failing and the humans are failing each other in this practice of medicine, then why do they even need to be invested into and continued forward? Just put them on some kind of robotic system. A robot could do better than the humans are performing in the area. I get on somebody's balance sheet, somebody's spreadsheet, that makes sense. And somebody's like egotistical, maniacal, narcissistic, whatever, that might make sense. Again, I don't really ascribe to that level of vocabulary. All sounds like campaigning. And then campaigning even got to be a dirty word. So I don't speak Spanish. I don't. So I'm just staying out. I don't have a dog in that fight. And right now it feels like it's raining cats and dogs everywhere I look.
I learned the reasons behind habits I've had my whole life.
If you spent any time on TikTok over the pandemic, you probably came across ads like these.
I had no idea this was caused by undiagnosed ADHD.
Mental health companies offering fast, affordable treatment for ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, completely online. One of the biggest companies is called Cerebral.
Cerebral provides a discreet, judgment-free way to be screened for ADHD.
Often that treatment came with a prescription for a frequently used medication, Adderall, a controlled substance tightly regulated by the Drug Enforcement Administration because it...
Okay, I've heard these things. High potential for abuse. Again, are we talking statistically amongst the singularity of birth dates? Because there's a depth perception that's just built into the system differently, wired into the system differently, and doesn't suffer from the same plight as the rest. So the arguments fall on deaf ears.
Because it carries a high potential for abuse.
Adderall is an amphetamine. It's a highly addictive drug.
Dr. Andrew Kolodny is a prescribing expert.
These are dangerous drugs that are controlled for a good reason.
Prior to the pandemic, a law called the Ryan Hate Act required medical professionals to see patients.
Is that hate speech? Just curious. I mean, hate speech had to come from somewhere. They spell it with a hat in the East, or the E. But I'm just curious because they pronounce this name and they have the word Ryan in front of it, which I am like, wow, talk about putting the family symbols up there in. It's a two-sided story. It comes from above. It birthed something. Then there's some kind of bridge, but it's taken something down. I mean, that's what the word... I mean, if you use it as singularity of symbols, what does the symbol by itself say? And then how does it alphabetically pattern out and add up to a message within a message? I mean, again.
Patients in person before prescribing any controlled substance. But the law was temporarily lifted due to the pandemic, meaning those drugs can now be prescribed through online appointments. And online companies, including Cerebral, have urged the government.
Now here, this Cerebral, now when they use Cerebral, I think they're talking to the meaty tissue part, the white matter, the gray matter, inside the dura matter. And the meninges, more in the cephalic region. However, they're using the two triangles in a different way, interlocking. So is it just, like again, if I go back to like robotics, is it just increasing like vasodilation and the pace of the circular system, the cardiac muscle, pumping electrical impulses throughout the CNS and the ANS in order to amplify this picking up of outside stimuli? And is that the desired effect? Is that what it does? Perhaps. I mean, that would be my interpretation of it. From what I've been able to study. But here they're using it in a different context. They're using it more in like it says Drug Enforcement Administration and Department of Justice.
meant to drop that in-person visit requirement permanently, something Dr. Kolodny sees as risky.
Without the requirement for a face-to-face visit, you can see businesses take advantage of the ease in which these drugs can be prescribed.
The potential for abuse is just too high if it's just online.
That's correct.
I come here daily.
So you feed the machine a script in an actual online platform. They feed the information to the human machine. And by like the magic power of suggestion or the whatever's going on in that circuitry loop of human programming and doctrine and endocrine and interactions with now this alternate platform in some whatever words I don't have access to at the moment. What's the difference with teaching the humans the same script and putting it out there? Then at least you have this layer of morals or ethics that are supposed to kick in. But there is this paradoxical, what's been actually performed and activated in the field is a whole lot of doctors learning about whatever, however they get compensated, I don't know, but their education filters through that this is whatever, and then they put it out there. And then if they decide they're no longer in a movement going to participate in it, then they made some online platform, and now the online platform is just scripting it out and giving it to the people. So again, it's thesis. It's somebody's either graduate work, somebody's professional work. I have no idea because I didn't get to that level, and I don't even know how they participate. I'm still just at class. So it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.